Oh my word, it's a beautiful day. We've had a lot of earthquakes and volcanoes around the world. I've had my own eruption on the allotment. Let me show you. Well, Mr. or Mrs. Mole have really gone to town. I've decided to adjust my step. I could use that soil somewhere, I'm sure. It's a balmy 24.8 degrees C in the polytunnel. All the seedlings are looking good. I've taken the top off of this little tray for the tomatoes because they did look like they were getting a bit tall, but they're doing fine. What I have noticed is that my lily, well, the water has clouded over, and amazingly, if you put your hand in it, you can just see the algae on the surface. Actually, you can move it away. This is a sure sign I need to get this lily out, because I don't want it to get all the light excluded by the algae. So I think it's time for it to go in the pond. Well, no comedy moments are planned here, so hopefully it'll all go swimmingly. Well, you know what I mean. Right. So we've got a ledge down over here, and that's where I'm planning for this to go. So let's see. Yep, that's gone in there nicely. Now, one of the subscribers said take a look at the RSPB wild pond site. So I had a look and it was very interesting. One of the things that it said was really important was to make sure that any amphibians could climb out of the pond. And I put this in here for that purpose, but I'm conscious that there's a gap at the back. So I'm just going to put a few stones into that gap just to make sure that there's a good escape route for anything that wants to come in and out. Well, those eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed this circular thing on the plot for a few weeks, and I recovered this from a bunch of kit that was obviously a deconstructed trampoline. And I looked at the bars for a long time, but to be honest, there's no room for another polytunnel on here. And that's a big project, although I've seen some fantastic work done from trampoline parts. But I did recover this because it's made of the same sort of gauge of metal as I use as hoops on the plot. So it seems to be put together with, well, sleeves that are threaded. So if I can take some of those threads and unscrew them, I may end up with a few new hoops. That's the plan. So I've brought my spanner with me today because it seems to be threaded both sides. I'm just going to see if I can loosen it. Yeah, it does seem to work. If I can get one of these undone, maybe it's the other way around. I think we're free. That's a good start. So then it's a case of just, I'll take that off. It's a case of seeing what sort of length would make a hoop. And I think it's probably, it's more than 2. It's got to be 3. So let's see. Well, it's quite a beast to handle. Three's too many, and 2's not quite enough. So I think we're going to start with 2 and see if we can make it work. So there we are, that's 2. Let's take it down to one of those hoops and see how it looks. Well, having made a quick check, 2 is just about the right height, but nothing to go in the ground. So unfortunately, I'm going to have 3 sections, which should mean I get 2 new hoops out of it. So let's see if we can get another one apart, and then that should give us 2 complete hoops. Right, well that came apart really easy, and these are actually held in with some grub screws. So I can attach a grub screw on that one and do exactly the same on this one, and then I should have 2 complete. You have these kneeling pads to save your knees and also to stop them getting wet. Note to self, try and kneel on the green bit. There we go. Right, which ones of these are loose? So I think on this one, it's that one. So let's just get this little screw in here. I've only got 2 of these, so I can't afford to lose one. Okay, here we go. So I think I may have to end up cutting these a bit, but we'll see. Let's just get one into the ground. Yeah, so ideally I'm going to need to take, I don't know, about 8 or 9 inches off both ends, but that should serve perfectly well as additional hoops. So if you're looking for scrap and you see a trampoline and you think, nah, I can't do a polytunnel, just keep an eye out for these. They're going to make great hoops. We may have noticed this wader that I screwed onto this block, which I really enjoy. Makes it look like a seaside scene. Well, I had some lovely gifts for my birthday. You'll see some of them over the next few videos, and this is one of them. It's a metal cutout wader and it screws down, and I think he's going to go just here to balance with the other one. So let's screw him into the block and see what he looks like. He looks just perfect there, and this is like a cut mild steel, and I'm guessing that it'll just rust, which will make it look even better actually. So yeah, pleased with that. So this is going to be a fiddly bit. I need to chop this down and process it quite small so that it lies flat. Otherwise I'll have just a huge mound in here. And then I can put the bigger logs on top. That's going to take me some time, and I don't think it'll make great viewing. So I'll bring you back when I've finished. Well, I'm pretty sure most of you will have guessed what's going on here by now. So this is the herb bed, which I've located next to our friends, the chickens. And I decided that for a long time I've been wanting to make a Hugelkutur bed, and this seemed like a good opportunity. But I'm also a no-dig gardener, so this is going to be a bit of a mix, a sort of a Hugel no-dig culture bed. You know what I mean. So I'm going to put all this material in the bottom, all these clippings from the fruit and also some of the hedge which I've needed to trim for a long time, and it's all going in the bottom. and then the larger logs on top, a bit of food waste, and then the chicken manure that I've got at the bottom of those tubs will go on top of that. And I'll probably top it off with some reasonable compost. That's the plan. But I've got an awful lot more of this to cut down, because if I don't cut it down, it's just going to be a bit of a mound. And it's important that the spaces in between all these bits of wood is fairly small, so that it isn't just a mass of air pockets. So the theory is quite simple, really. The wood decays over time, and you get a build-up of mycelia and all those good things in the soil that help to make the plants grow well. And it's also a fantastic way of getting rid of all your clippings. So 2 birds with 1 stone. So this is the last few bits of processing onto the floor of the bed, and then I get onto the big stuff. And for that, I've invited a friend. So just before we start on the bigger stuff, I'll show you what it's like in here. So probably about 6 or 8 inches when you've cut it all down, and just trample it down, get it nice and flat, and then we'll start putting in the bigger logs. So these logs can go in pretty long. I probably only need to cut this into 1 or 2 pieces, but this is my friend. Okay, so we've got a few awkward bits we just need to get in the right place. That one needs a bit of a haircut, I think. There we go. So the next step for this will be to put the chicken compost on top. Make sure it gets down into all those little crevices, and then we should have a good level to put some better quality compost on the top, and then hopefully we're good to go. Leave that for a little while, and as the wood rots down, hopefully it'll feed the plants in the future. And just before I close off that bed, I'm going to add the prunings from these red currants. Now, I pruned these pretty well last year, so I'm looking for the usual things: branches that are rubbing, or any really extraneous bits that stick into the path, get in my way. And it's good just to get rid of those, and you'll appreciate it later on in the year when you're trying to get in and out. So particularly for me, it's about getting into these compost bins, particularly when I have to turn them over once in the summer. So there's a few bits and bobs to come off, and it's a fairly light prune this year. There's definitely some of those crossing branches which come about through new growth. So we'll get on with that. So that's the clippings out of these 2, 4, 5, 6 red currant bushes. You can see how much further on this one always is than the other two, and I'm putting that down to it being a slightly different variety, but it's always that much earlier. But we've got some decent shape on it now, nothing sticking out into the walkways too much. I did notice as I look around there, there's a really good example of 2 branches that are clashing, so I will take one of these out. Overcast and damp, but just the right weather to finish off this Hugelkutur no dig type bed. So that's the finished state at the moment. We've got all that wood and chippings and branches, everything in the bottom, and the next step is to get some chicken compost or manure over the top of that. I'll show you what I've got. So these are the two composters, and this one has had quite a lot of grass put in it over the course of last season, so that's rotted down quite well. And this one is where we put bedding from the chickens into the top, and I know the further down we go, the more this would have composted. So I think it's going to be a combination of these two going into the top of the bed. Let's get it out and see what it looks like. So these raspberries I took out of the ground when I was making the fruit bed, and they've come on really well. I've given a few away, but we've still got plenty left, and who knows, I may need them in the future. So we'll just put these carefully to one side, and then we'll get the top off of these bins and see what we got underneath. Now the good thing about these composters is that they're cone shaped and they literally pull up. So let's see if we can do it. Right, we've got a real sandwich there. I'll show you. Now, chicken bedding is proving to be a really useful material. It's a fantastic byproduct of keeping chickens, and you can see pretty much the first 12 inches is pretty much compost, really good stuff, and then we've probably got 3 or 4 inches of reasonable, and the rest is a little bit too raw. But you can see all the worms in here. It's fantastic. So let's try this grass one. This is very similar. I obviously put quite a bit of chicken bedding in there, and the grass, that would have filled up 2 or 3 times over the summer, and it's basically rotted down to nothing, but we have got lots of worms in there. So there's plenty of material there for the new bed. Let's move it. Well, there's some lumpy bits in here, so I'm going to just place those the best I can to get into some of the bigger gaps, and then we'll put the loose on top and try and work it in. But this material that comes out the bottom of that composter is excellent stuff, and this will immediately introduce worms into the bed as well. Right, let's see if we can work it in. So from what I've learned, one of the characteristics of Hugelkutur anyway is to have quite a mound. So whilst we've dug down, we also mound up, and that gives everything, I guess, a really good root space, and also allows for that wood down below to rot and decompose over a fair old period of time, whilst still using the bed fairly quickly for growing in. And that one compost bin has given me 3 barrows of good compost, which is fantastic. Right, let's see if we can spread that and get a reasonable mound. And then I've got some shop bought compost to go on the top, just to give a good start to anything that I put in it this season, which is going to be herbs. And what's gratifying is that, at least to this point, everything in this bed has been recycled on this plot. It sort of makes me think I don't want to add anything, but I don't know, we'll see. There we go. That's looking pretty good now. Good times. Well, I've decided to resist. There's a real thrill about having a bed that's completely made of my own recycled material. So I'm not going to add that shop bought compost. I'm going to just work with what I've got, and hopefully that will succeed and give me even more satisfaction. So whilst I was digging out that chicken manure, I came across this old container that I've had for a very long time, and it's got a tap on it. And one of the things that I'm really challenged with in the summer is irrigating the plants in the polytunnel if I go away for a couple of days. And I think this might be a bit of a solution. So I'm going to take out what's inside it, which is 2 or 3 years worth of nettle tea, comfrey tea and various homemade feeds that I've had spare and I've just stored in here. So I think I'm going to drain that into this fermenting bin, which I picked up this morning whilst walking the dog, and hopefully I can fill that and maybe another container and then use that in the polytunnel this summer. I've got some ideas. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.